At 51 years old, Leonardo DiCaprio has spent more than 3 decades in the spotlight. People around the world know him as one of the biggest movie stars in Hollywood. His films have made billions of dollars. He has worked with some of the most respected directors in the industry. And after years of nominations, he finally won the Academy Award for Best Actor. But outside of his career, there has always been another story that follows him everywhere. His relationships. For years, the public has talked about Leonardo DiCaprio's love life almost as much as his movies. Magazines, websites, and television shows have all tried to track who he is dating. Many of the women he has been with were famous models. Others were actresses. Some relationships lasted only months. Some lasted a few years. Because of this pattern, people began to see him in a certain way. Hollywood's most famous bachelor. A man who dated beautiful women but never seemed ready to settle down. Over time, a strange reputation started forming around him. Fans joked about the age of the women he dated. The media built entire headlines around his relationships. Every time he was seen with someone new, photos would appear everywhere within hours. But behind the jokes and headlines, there were a few relationships that were more serious than the others. And there is one in particular that many people still talk about. The relationship between Leonardo DiCaprio and Brazilian supermodel Gisele Bündchen. For several years in the early 2000s, they were one of the most famous couples in the world. Paparazzi followed them everywhere. Fans believed they might eventually get married. Some people close to them even said they talked about building a life together. But then, suddenly, it ended. Their breakup that surprised a lot of people. Years later, as Leonardo DiCaprio entered his 50s, the conversation around his life started to change. People were no longer only talking about the young heartthrob from the 1990s. They were talking about a man who had spent most of his life in front of cameras, navigating fame, relationships, and the pressure of being one of the most recognizable actors on the planet. In interviews, he has sometimes reflected on his past, talking about the people who were part of his life during those intense years of fame. And when the topic of past relationships comes up, one name often appears again and again. The woman many believe was the most serious relationship he ever had. The woman some friends say he once thought about marrying. The woman who, according to people close to him, changed the way he looked at life during the time they were together. So who was she to him? Why did their relationship matter so much? To understand that, we have to go back to the beginning. Long before the fame. Before the screaming fans. Before the biggest movie in the world turned him into a global superstar. Back to a young boy growing up in Los Angeles who just wanted to become an actor. Long before he became one of the most recognizable actors in the world, Leonardo DiCaprio was just a kid growing up in Los Angeles. He was born in 1974 and raised by his mother, Ermeline Inden Birkin. His parents separated when he was very young, and from that point on, his mother became the main person raising him. Money was often tight. They lived in different neighborhoods around Los Angeles, sometimes in places that weren't considered the best areas. Leonardo has talked about seeing drug activity and crime around him while growing up. It wasn't the glamorous image people imagine when they think about Hollywood. His mother worked hard to support him, and she believed in his dreams very early on. Leonardo showed interest in performing as a child. He liked pretending, telling stories, and being in front of people. His mother noticed this and began taking him to auditions. At first, things didn't happen quickly. He tried out for many small roles. Some casting directors liked him, but many said no. That's normal for child actors, but it can still be frustrating. Eventually he started landing small parts in commercials. These weren't major jobs, but they helped him get experience. More importantly, they helped him understand how the industry worked. He learned how auditions felt, how sets worked, and how to deal with rejection. By the early 1990s, he began appearing in television shows. One of his early appearances was on the sitcom Growing Pains. It wasn't a huge role, but it helped him get noticed by people working in Hollywood. Even then, many casting directors saw something different in him. He didn't act like a typical child actor trying to be cute on camera. He approached roles seriously, trying to understand the characters he was playing. Then came the role that changed everything. In 1993, Leonardo was cast in the film What's Eating Gilbert Grape, starring alongside Johnny Depp. In the film, Leonardo played Arnie, a young boy with developmental challenges. It was a demanding role, especially for someone so young. But his performance surprised a lot of people. Critics praised the way he played the character. It felt natural, emotional, and honest. Many viewers didn't even realize he was acting. The film brought him something very rare for a teenager in Hollywood: an Academy Award nomination. He was nominated for Best Supporting Actor while still in his teens. That moment changed how the industry saw him. He was no longer just another young actor trying to make it. He was now seen as serious talent. After that, his career started moving faster. Directors became interested in working with him. Producers began offering him bigger roles. Hollywood had discovered a young actor who seemed capable of playing complicated characters. But none of them could have predicted what would happen just a few years later. A movie that would change his life completely. A movie that would make him one of the most famous people on the planet. By the mid-1990s, Leonardo DiCaprio was already building a strong reputation in Hollywood. He had worked with respected actors and directors. Critics considered him one of the most talented young performers of his generation. But fame was still manageable. People in the film industry knew who he was. Movie fans recognized him. But he could still walk through public places without crowds surrounding him. That was about to change. In the mid-1990s, director James Cameron was preparing a massive film project called Titanic. At the time, many people in Hollywood thought the movie was a huge risk. It had a very large budget, complicated filming, and a story based on a real historical disaster. But Cameron believed the emotional love story at the center of the film would connect with audiences. The main character, Jack Dawson, needed a young actor who could bring charm, energy, and emotional depth. After many discussions and auditions, Leonardo DiCaprio was chosen for the role. His co-star would be British actress Kate Winslet, who played Rose. From the beginning, the two actors had natural chemistry. During filming, they spent months working together on an enormous set built to recreate the famous ship. In 1997, Titanic premiered in theaters. Within weeks, it became a global phenomenon. People watched the movie multiple times. Teenagers covered their bedroom walls with Leonardo's posters. Fans waited outside hotels and film premieres hoping to catch a glimpse of him. The level of fame he experienced was something few actors ever experience. Crowds would scream when he appeared in public. Magazines printed his face on covers all over the world. The media even created a nickname for the wave of young fans who adored him: Leomania. For Leonardo DiCaprio, life changed almost overnight. Before Titanic, he was a respected young actor. After Titanic, he was one of the most famous men in the world. With that level of fame came new pressures. Every move he made was watched. Every relationship became a story. Photographers followed him everywhere. His personal life was no longer private. At the same time, he was still a young man in his early 20s trying to understand this new reality. He spent time with other young actors and artists in Hollywood. They were all experiencing fame in different ways, trying to figure out how to live normal lives while the public watched them constantly. And during this period, something else started to happen. The media became very interested in his romantic life. Every woman he was seen with quickly became a headline. Rumors spread constantly. But in the early 2000s, one relationship would become bigger than the rest. A relationship that would place him and one of the world's most famous supermodels together at the center of global attention. That woman was Gisele Bündchen. And their story was just beginning. After the massive success of Titanic, life for Leonardo DiCaprio no longer looked the same. The movie had turned him into one of the most recognizable faces on the planet. Wherever he went, people noticed him. Fans crowded around him in airports, restaurants, and even on the street. Photographers waited outside clubs and hotels just hoping to get a single photo. At the same time, Leonardo was still in his early 20s. He suddenly had money, freedom, and global fame. Like many young actors during that time, he spent a lot of time with friends in Hollywood who were going through similar experiences. One group he became known for hanging out with was sometimes called the Pussy Posse. It included actors and friends like Tobey Maguire and a few other young Hollywood figures who were often seen together at parties and events in Los Angeles and New York. The media loved writing about this group. They were young, famous, and always out at nightclubs or film premieres. Stories about their nights out appeared in magazines and gossip columns almost every week. For Leonardo, it was a strange time. On one side, he was working hard to prove that he was more than just the young heartthrob from Titanic. He wanted to continue making serious films and working with respected directors. On the other side, his personal life was becoming entertainment for the public. The press started paying close attention to who he was dating. Anytime he was seen talking to a model or actress, rumors would immediately begin. Sometimes those rumors were true. Sometimes they weren't. But over time, a pattern started forming in the public's mind. Leonardo DiCaprio was seen as Hollywood's most famous bachelor. A man surrounded by beautiful women but rarely staying in a relationship for very long. It wasn't entirely fair, but it became part of his image. During those years, he focused heavily on his acting career as well. He worked on films that were very different from Titanic, movies that allowed him to show different sides of his talent. He worked with director Danny Boyle on The Beach, a film about a young traveler searching for a hidden paradise. The movie was filmed in Thailand and other tropical locations, giving Leonardo time away from Hollywood and the constant attention of the media. But the press never completely stopped watching him. They continued to follow his relationships closely. And in the year 2000, something happened that would change his personal life in a major way. He met a woman who was already becoming one of the most famous models in the world. Her name was Gisele Bündchen. Around the same time that Leonardo DiCaprio was becoming one of the biggest movie stars in the world, another young star was rising quickly in the fashion industry. Her name was Gisele Bündchen. She was born in Brazil and grew up far from the glamorous world of international fashion. As a teenager, she was discovered by modeling scouts while out shopping. From there, her career moved incredibly fast. By the late 1990s, Gisele was appearing on magazine covers around the world. Designers wanted her on their runways. Major fashion brands competed to sign her for campaigns. Her confidence and strong personality made her stand out. She wasn't just another model walking down a runway. She had a presence that photographers and designers loved. Soon, she became one of the highest-paid models in the world. When Leonardo DiCaprio and Gisele Bündchen first met around the year 2000, both of them were at the top of their industries. He was one of the most famous actors alive. She was one of the most recognizable models in fashion. Their meeting happened through social circles connected to fashion events and Hollywood parties. Famous actors, models, musicians, and designers often attended the same gatherings. At first, their relationship was quiet. They went on dates without making public announcements. But it didn't take long before photographers started noticing them together. Soon, pictures of Leonardo and Gisele began appearing everywhere. Walking together on city streets, leaving restaurants, vacationing together. The media quickly realized this was more than just a short romance. They were spending a lot of time together. Fans were fascinated by the couple. On one side was the movie star who had captured the world's attention with Titanic. On the other side was the Brazilian model who was dominating the fashion industry. Together, they looked like the perfect celebrity couple. Paparazzi followed them constantly. Magazines printed photos of them on beaches, yachts, and red carpets. For a while, it seemed like they were everywhere. But behind the cameras, their relationship was still developing like any other. They were two young people dealing with massive fame while trying to build something real. And surprisingly, the relationship lasted longer than many people expected. By the early 2000s, Leonardo DiCaprio and Gisele Bündchen had become one of the most talked about couples in the world. They were photographed together constantly. Sometimes it was during vacations on tropical beaches. Other times it was simple moments, like walking through cities or leaving restaurants together. The media loved the story. Hollywood's biggest young movie star dating the world's most famous supermodel. But unlike some celebrity relationships that only last a few months, friends close to the couple later said that their relationship felt more serious than many of Leonardo's past romances. They spent holidays together. They met each other's families. They supported each other's careers. Gisele sometimes visited Leonardo while he was working on film sets, and Leonardo attended events connected to her modeling career. People in Hollywood began wondering if the relationship might eventually lead to marriage. There were even rumors that they had discussed the idea privately. During this time, Gisele had a noticeable influence on Leonardo's lifestyle. Friends said she encouraged him to slow down the constant party scene that had surrounded him during his early fame. She focused heavily on health and wellness. Exercise, healthy food, meditation, and personal growth were important parts of her life. Leonardo, who had spent years living the fast-paced lifestyle of a young movie star, started adopting some of those habits as well. They also shared some common interests. Both of them cared deeply about environmental issues. Over time, Leonardo would become one of the most active environmental advocates in Hollywood, even creating the Leonardo DiCaprio Foundation to support conservation projects around the world. During their relationship, people around them noticed that Leonardo seemed calmer and more focused. For a while, it looked like they had found a balance between their incredibly busy careers and their personal life together. But being two of the most famous people in the world also brought challenges. Both of them were constantly traveling. Both had demanding schedules. And the pressure of living under the constant attention of cameras never fully went away. Over time, small cracks in the relationship slowly began to appear. By the mid-2000s, the relationship between Leonardo DiCaprio and Gisele Bündchen had already lasted longer than many people expected. They had been together for several years, and during that time they had experienced a level of public attention that very few couples ever deal with. Every trip they took was photographed. Every dinner became a headline. Every moment together was analyzed by fans and reporters. At first, they handled the attention fairly well. But over time, the pressure of their careers and the constant spotlight started to create challenges. Both of them were extremely busy. Leonardo was focusing heavily on his film career. After the huge success of Titanic, he became very careful about the movies he chose. He wanted to work with respected directors and continue proving that he was a serious actor. Around this time, he began collaborating frequently with director Martin Scorsese. Their partnership would eventually produce several major films. But filming movies often meant spending months away from home. Sometimes he was working in different countries for long periods of time. Meanwhile, Gisele's modeling career was also demanding. As one of the most famous models in the world, she was constantly traveling between fashion shows, magazine shoots, and advertising campaigns. Paris 1 week, New York the next, then Milan, then Tokyo. Their schedules rarely lined up. Friends later said that finding time together became harder as their careers continued to grow. There were also differences in lifestyle. Gisele was becoming more focused on personal growth and health. She spoke openly about meditation, self-reflection, and trying to live a balanced life. Leonardo, while still dedicated to his work, continued to enjoy the social side of Hollywood. There were still parties, still late nights with friends, still the fast pace of celebrity life. None of this meant the relationship was suddenly falling apart. But small tensions slowly started building. The media also didn't help. Tabloid magazines constantly printed rumors about problems between them. Some stories were exaggerated. Some were completely false. But reading headlines about your relationship week after week can still create stress. At times, the couple took short breaks from each other. They would spend time apart, focusing on work or personal space. Then they would reconnect again. To the outside world, it looked like they were still strong. But privately, things were becoming more complicated. And eventually, the relationship reached a point where both of them had to make a difficult decision. In 2005, after nearly 5 years together, the relationship between Leonardo DiCaprio and Gisele Bündchen came to an end. For many fans, the news was surprising. They had been one of the most visible celebrity couples in the world. People were used to seeing them together in photos from vacations, award shows, and public events. Because the relationship had lasted so long, some believed they might eventually get married. But behind the scenes, the couple had been struggling for some time. Their demanding careers continued pulling them in different directions. Long stretches of time apart made it difficult to maintain the same connection they once had. There were also personal changes happening in both of their lives. Gisele later explained in interviews that during that period she began thinking deeply about the direction of her life. She was focusing more on her mental and emotional health and questioning certain parts of her lifestyle. She wanted stability. She wanted clarity about the future. Leonardo, on the other hand, was still deeply focused on his career and the freedom that came with his lifestyle. Neither of them made dramatic public statements about the breakup. There was no public argument, no scandal. Instead, the split happened quietly. A short statement confirmed that they had ended their relationship and decided to move forward separately. For a while, the media tried to guess the reasons behind the breakup. Some blamed their busy schedules. Others suggested differences in priorities. But the truth was likely simpler. Two very famous people trying to build a relationship while living extremely demanding lives had simply reached a point where it no longer worked. After the breakup, both of them moved forward with their lives. But the story of their relationship would continue to follow them for many years. After his breakup with Gisele Bündchen, Leonardo DiCaprio returned to a life that looked somewhat familiar to the public. He continued acting in major films and remained one of the biggest names in Hollywood. He also continued dating. One of his most talked about relationships after Gisele was with Israeli model Bar Raffaelli. The two were together for several years and were often photographed during vacations and public outings. But just like many of his other relationships, that one eventually ended as well. During these years, Leonardo became even more focused on his acting career. He starred in major films like The Wolf of Wall Street, where he played stockbroker Jordan Belfort in a wild and intense performance that earned him major praise. Then came another film that would become one of the most physically demanding roles of his career, The Revenant. The film required Leonardo to endure extremely harsh filming conditions in cold wilderness environments. He spent months working through difficult scenes that tested him physically and mentally. When the film was released, critics praised his dedication to the role. The moment became one of the most celebrated events of his career. Meanwhile, Gisele's life had also changed dramatically. After their breakup, she eventually met NFL quarterback Tom Brady. The two married in 2009 and built a family together. Gisele gradually stepped back from full-time modeling and focused more on family life, personal projects, and environmental causes. From the outside, it looked like both of them had moved on. But their past relationship remained one of the most famous celebrity romances of the early 2000s. As the years passed, both Leonardo DiCaprio and Gisele Bündchen occasionally spoke about that time in their lives. Not in dramatic ways, but in honest reflections. Gisele once explained that during the later part of their relationship she began feeling that she needed deeper personal change in her life. She spoke about struggling with anxiety and wanting to shift toward a healthier lifestyle, both mentally and emotionally. In interviews, she described how that period forced her to ask difficult questions about her future. Questions about who she wanted to be, and what kind of life she wanted to build. Leonardo, on the other hand, rarely spoke in detail about specific relationships. He has always been very private about his personal life. But people close to him sometimes suggested that his relationship with Gisele had been one of the most serious he ever had. They had been together during a very intense period of fame. Both were young. Both were dealing with global attention. Both were trying to balance huge careers with personal life. Those experiences can create very strong memories. Even years later, fans still mention their relationship when discussing Leonardo's past. For many people, they remain one of those couples that seemed perfectly matched at the time. Today, Leonardo DiCaprio is in his 50s. He is still one of the most respected actors in Hollywood. His career continues to attract attention, and his environmental activism remains a major part of his public life. But his personal life still draws curiosity. Over the years, many people have asked the same question. Why has Leonardo DiCaprio never married? The answer isn't simple. Some people believe he simply values his independence. Others think his career has always come first. But when conversations turn to his past relationships, one name continues to stand out: Gisele Bündchen. Their relationship lasted longer than most of his others. It happened during a time when both of them were becoming global icons. They experienced the pressures of fame together. And for a period in the early 2000s, they looked like a couple who might build a life together. Sometimes in life, certain relationships stay with people even after they end. Not because they ended badly, but because they happened during an important time in life. For Leonardo DiCaprio, the years he spent with Gisele Bündchen were part of a period when everything around him was changing. His fame, his career, and his understanding of life in the public eye. And even decades later, the story of their relationship remains one of the most talked about chapters in the life of one of Hollywood's most famous actors.